So today I'm going to be working on another waistcoat, and I thought I would just look quickly at how we're going to attach the horsehair to the back here. It's a little bit different from a regular waistcoat. This guy's shape is not the kind of shape where you can have a dart here, where the waist is smaller than the chest. The waist here is quite a bit bigger than the chest. And there's a lot of different ways that you can handle that. One of them, or like let's say maybe there's a few different things that you can do on the pattern. So one is I've made here at the top where you're going to button, not 100% straight, because the stomach, obviously the shape is like this. So here I curve it back in a little bit for the top button. And as you are drawing your pattern, here's the chest line, here's the waist. So if your chest line is maybe ending here and your waist here, if you've got a straight line along there, you can take this difference between what is straight and where your angle would be and take that amount out of the slice here and kind of form a dart in there. That's one way. The other way, this, I fit with a straight front, and then I fit on the client and see how much I need to take out here. So this is just after fitting. I've taken out about 1 centimeter. And then this is my way. I draw this princess line in here. And also discuss with the client, like, will this work for you to have a line in here? Because then we can put a little bit of a dart in here, although this will actually just be a seam. That brings it close to the armhole and also gives us the shape. And then down here at the bottom, you can also shape it a little bit, just so it doesn't, in a way, like flap around underneath the stomach. You can just pinch it there a little bit, so it's a little bit closer to the body. So that's the way I do it, and this is what we're going to do. Today I'm just going to do the front portion of this waistcoat and attach the horsehair to the back in a way that's a little bit different than if you would have a dart here like the last time. So I've already cut out the front pieces, and the front pieces are separate here because this is going to become a seam. But for the canvas, there's going to be one piece, and we're just going to shape it there with darts. So I just transferred all those marks and also the pockets onto all 4 sides. This one only has a pocket, one chest pocket, so I'm only doing that once. And the first thing I'm going to do while everything is still flat is I'm going to draw in or cut out my window for these pockets. So I'm giving a 2 centimeter allowance all around. So this is the same as I'll do for a jacket. I'll cut in this little window for the pocket. Now this pocket, I really can't have right here by this seam. That's just not going to work. So I'm actually shifting this a little bit forwards. So this is 10. Yeah, I'm going to shift it 2 centimeters forward, which is a bit extreme to this edge, but it really cannot be that close to here. It's just not going to work. I think it's 2.5 wide. Yep. And then that's reasonably straight. So now we put the 2 centimeter window. This is going to come over the dart, which is why I'm doing this first, and it's just easier to do while everything is flat. So here we are. You can cut this out. Here we are. So you don't actually have to have such a big window, come to think of it, because really only this portion that gets cut through. So actually, this portion I should keep on the edge. This one's already cut, this bit. So I'll just cut it down to there. I suppose maybe I cut the whole thing. Doesn't really matter. may as well just cut the whole thing. And then I'm going to come with another piece of fabric, which I don't have on me at this time, put it at the back and just zigzag all the way around so that there's a soft portion for my pocket to come through. Let me do all of that. So there we go. I've stitched this little window in, making sure my edges are all encased. My sewing machine is really having a bad day. Don't judge me. And then here on the portion that's going to face the fabric, just putting some fusing over there so we don't have that stitching shining through. And on my fabrics, I've just put a bit of fusing at the back where the pockets are coming. So that I'll put to the side for now. So what I want to do at the moment is cut out these dots. And because this one, I stitched over here where my dot is marked, I'm just going to put them together and cut them one time. So this is exactly the same as the horsehair canvas for a suit, where we're just creating those shapes. I just want you to see that these two are actually connecting. Other way. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Okay. I'll just connect one leg of the start. Now that these things have moved around a little bit, they are not wanting to line up nicely. There we go. There we go. And then the same here. I just want to check that this is actually lining up as exactly as possible. Just come a bit down. Okay, so that's as aligned as it's going to be. So I'll just put some stabilizing pins here and there. Then I'll do exactly like with a suit jacket. I'll take this little wedge out and join it together with a piece of cotton. Yeah, and then I'm just going to go and join that together like that. So there I've got my windows in, I've got my darts done. Now this is going to be what's facing the fabric, and I need to make sure that I'm lining up my seam correctly. I'm just going to transfer that dart to the other side. Not dart, that seam. Okay. And you can see, there's the shape that we've got, and here at the bottom, just pinching it a little bit so that it doesn't kind of flap about there. Now I'm going to take this one, and you see here I've joined my pieces with this seam. You have to discuss this with the client. Are they okay with the seam here? If not, got to make another plan. I have, sometimes just put a small dart in here, but this client super happy with this. So let's see, getting this all aligned. Now I was really using the last of this horsehair. Usually I make the horsehair much bigger than it needs to be, but I had to be phenomenally frugal this time around because it's the last piece and I do not have the time to go and buy another piece right now. Okay, so that's more or less straight. I'm going to check my seams are good. So I want the seam to line exactly with my line. Right. Very nice. Good, good, good. And this should line exactly with the center. There. Where's my center? That's close enough. Your fabric, it's a little bit like water, always moving. Okay, so now this portion, I'm actually just going to, in a way, bump up like that, so that it's a little bit out of the way. Going to start by stitching right here next to my seam. That's in my throat. That needle's going to annoy me. So this is really basically exactly the same as you would do for a suit, and it's basically exactly the same that I did for the previous waistcoat, with the only difference here being that we're now doing the pockets. So I first have to put those windows in so that my pockets can stitch through there. And of course, this is now for a chap with a bit of a different shape than the waistcoat I previously did. So yeah, just going around stitching kind of next to this. Getting all the knots out. Yeah, and just continuing. Continuing along this seam. Going. Really should not be lifting this off the table, but live on the edge. There we are. I don't want to go all the way to the edge. My seam allowance is 1.5, so I want to stop before that. Yeah, now, this portion, it's now flat. If I lift that up off the table, this portion is flat. So really, I'm going to then do just 2 lines. I should be double knotting top and bottom of the pocket, but I'm not going to because it is already 5:30 Should have finished this way earlier today, but I just had client after client, so I didn't get a chance. And tomorrow we are going to Fordsburg, which is like a district of lots of fabric shops, lots of fantastic food, and I have to buy some stuff for clients there, but I'll not have time to sew because I'll be shopping. So I really have to finish this today before I head home. Okay, and now just around the edge. Yeah, so same story as with a jacket. We're just smoothing this over the horsehair without making it too tight. So that these layers will become one. Now, before I carry on there, I do have to check the time. Wow, okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is now flip this portion up, just get to that seam allowance. As usual, we're just going to go 3 stitches in one place, no knots. And just do a herringbone from the seam allowance onto the canvas. And as usual, herringbone, it's a good option because it has a little bit of movement. And you do want a little bit of movement here. I'm just going along. And 3 knots in one place, 2 knot off, 3 stitches in one place. Here we go. And then here we'll do that same story. We'll just lift that up and shift this forwards like that. I've got to go. I'll carry on with this tomorrow. And here I am on a Saturday, dedicating my life to fashion. Yeah, so nothing too exciting. Just basically getting the 2 layers to mold together. And then here I like to do it on the flat. Other people, like how I learned in Germany, is rather to do it over a shape. So instead of doing it on the flat like this, actually to use a bigger egg and do it over a shape like this. But I really like this method because working on the flat for me is always more secure. And specifically, if I'm bending it like this, stitching it, then as it bends over, it in a way stretches a little bit tight over the horsehair. And that then over time kind of relaxes into forming exactly. Whereas I feel if I form it like that, then over time it will end up sagging. That is my personal opinion on the matter. Everyone is different. And I think that was the biggest thing for me to get used to with tailoring, that there really isn't one right way to do it. Which, I am a creative person, but I do, I suppose maybe it's, because I'm like a little bit maybe nervous, or I don't have so much self confidence. I like to just know what's the right thing so I can just do the right thing and get on with it. And that has been quite a journey for me in tailoring to develop my own method and be confident in my own method. And also be confident in the fact that I'll always be learning. Every single time I log onto YouTube, I see something new and I adopt it and adapt my systems so that I'm always improving. So, yeah, there's really nothing to it, just continuing, and working always as flat as possible. So, constantly moving this around to be on the flat where feasible. This one now, it's the first time I'm doing it exactly like this. So, it's always an adventure for me to see exactly how this method works. But so far, so good. I am, this shape, it's quite a unique one. I didn't think I would have such a challenge doing it like this. But here we are. And yeah, so far, so good. The other option is, of course, to join the horsehair onto these separate pieces, trim it back from the seam allowance, and then join the 2 pieces, which would make it easier if I have to do a small adjustment here or there. If it's like this, that's going to be a situation. But I'll deal with it. And I like the idea of having one completely flat, but one continuous piece of horsehair on the back side. This, I feel it has some weird bubble. I think I'm just going to iron the living daylights out of it. Because also wool is a bit malleable, which is again why I like to, in a way, stretch it. Because over time, with the heat of your body, the moisture of your body, and the environment, and the motion of your body, which is causing the friction, it's going to felt in a certain way. So I actually want it to be a little bit too tight in the beginning so that that process will just shape it to your body over time. But again, there's really nothing to this that's different from the way I did the waistcoat previously, except that here, because I am having the pockets, I'm putting those windows in so that my pockets can go through the horsehair easily. This horsehair is quite thin. I don't think anyone would have died if I just went straight through the horsehair. But in any event, that's how I chose to do it. For this one, I am always, each one is unique. This is bespoke. If I was doing manufacture, then I would figure out the best way, and I do that. I manufacture for some people. Then, together we figure out, okay, time-wise, budget-wise, fashion-wise, this is what we're going to do. Then we do the same thing for 30 items. But because this is bespoke, I'm always learning something new and always trying to give, according to the budget of the client, which is not only money, it's also time. I'm always trying to give the best. I always give the best that I can. So if I've overspent on fabric, I might have to cut back a bit on the construction method. If I've managed to save on fabric, I can be really opulent on construction. It's just how it goes. So, after this, there's nothing really amazing I'm going to do. I'm just going to press and then stretch it over the mannequin. Now this one is going to be an interesting one to do, so I think we'll do that together because I don't have a mannequin with this particular shape. So it will be an interesting one to see how I'm going to do that. Okay, so with that done, then just double check myself by holding it up like this and going just over it like this to make sure there's no like random funny bubbles or, it's looking quite fabulous. Okay, yeah, so I'll do the next one and then we're going to do an iron. So with all of that basting done, my pieces together, starting on the wrong side, and I'm just going to just start on a flat side like this. First thing I want to do is see how sensitive is my fabric. This doesn't look too bad, but I've actually already done another piece with the other side a little bit harder. I don't know if you can really see that on camera, but the stitching does shine up just that little bit through the fabric, so it's quite a fine fabric. So I just need to be aware of that so that I don't overdo it. But as long as I know kind of what the tolerance of the fabric is, then I can just make sure I don't overdo it. Obviously, I wouldn't overdo it anyways, but I like to just check and see. I don't know if you can really see that coming up, but you can just see a bit of a bubble there happening because of that stitching. And of course, I don't really want the front of my waistcoat to look all wrinkly. So I'm just going to be, you can see there, just a little bit of wrinkling just around where those stitches are. So I just need to be aware of that so that I don't overdo it along the stitching. And I'm always trying to work on the flats. So obviously this is now a nice flat section. If I lift that up, this whole portion becomes flat. So always working on the flat, and then we can move over to this side, and again, working on the flat. And you see here, because I know there, I'm sure you can see that on the camera. You can just see where the stitching is over there. So I just need to be kind of gentle over that area. And there I use more steam than force from the iron. You see there, that's pretty much disappeared. And going along, you can use a shape to help you get into those corners. Again, here I'm just going to using more steam than force. Here on the flat portion, I can use more force. But here where my pocket is coming through, you need to just be careful. And then again, of course, this flat section. And of course, I know where the shape is. It's here and here. So that's the portion I need to be careful where I don't eliminate shape through the iron. Whereas I know that this section here where I am is basically flat. So just make that basically flat. All right, and then I'm going to come back onto a form just for this portion here. Now, my mannequin really, the immovable one is not going to help me in this case. And the movable one is just no real chance I can get that into the shape of this client. Very unique shape, this gentleman. So I'll show you now what I did. Yeah, so this is just really making sure these layers are nice and tight together. Now, of course, here, because it's behind the seam, it's not such a danger for your stitching to show through. But you can see, if you look very carefully, there's my seam. So this is quite a fine fabric. This is why your seam is popping through and your stitching will pop through here. So you just have to be cautious about that. So let's, from here, pop to the mannequin. So here, like I was saying, there's really no chance I can get the shape of this client. Even if I put everything at its max, I can't get to the shape of this client. So what I've done is just put the max here on the waist and the hips, and then put the chest as minimum as will go. I don't know, if you've worked with these mannequins, you'll know they really fight you if you make one section really big and another section really small. So just to try as much as I can to mimic the shape of this client. If you don't have a movable mannequin like this, then I'd suggest working with one of these, these forms. Because if you have a large enough one, you can really stretch this nicely over that. But fortunately, I worked on a business development program with the Craft and Design Institute. Love you guys. And there was some funding available. And I chose to spend that on this mannequin. Because this mannequin, I don't know if I've discussed it with you before, but they're very rickety. And like in this case, even though this mannequin cost me so much, there's no chance you can get the exact shape of a client. But it is very useful. Like in this case, even though it's not a great facsimile to the shape of my client, it is giving me the option of doing my pinning process. So really I'm just trying to stretch this out over the form. And that is resulting in some crazy stretching in some crazy places and pins where I wouldn't usually. But anyway, I decided to buy this mannequin because, with my own funds, I always thought, no, this is kind of a waste of money because they're very rickety, not so reliable for them, or not so accurate for the shape of the client. But, when the funds were available, this was one of the things I thought, now that there is some money, this is one of the things that I know is going to help me, and it has been very useful to the business. Like in a case like this, even though the form is not anything like the shape of my client, it is still helping me to just do this process of stretching out the horsehair and the fabric overnight, which on my immovable one, the shape is it's so different that I can't really do that process. So this one is actually helping me out quite a bit at this time. So yeah, I've just stretched that out over the mannequin, and I'm going to leave that to tomorrow, which is Sunday, where I'll continue to work, even though it is a crime, because fashion does not sleep. Yeah, there we go.